Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back this time for some fights. Not talking about any controversies in a wrestling ring. Appreciate all the feedback. My God, those videos really went crazy. I really appreciate it. But back to fighting. And this week, it's obviously a gigantic boxing match. Before I get started at all, I work for ProBox TV. That's my kind of daily gig. I do boxing scene for them. And then we're doing a watch-along of this fight on ProBox TV. Check it out if you can. We're doing a pre-fight show, post-fight show. Basically, I'm working all day on it. So everything I'm saying about this fight, a lot of it is from obviously the analysts at ProBox TV. Although I know a lot about boxing, I don't know as much as Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri, who are my co-hosts there. And so if you want detailed breakdowns of each individual fight, please go to ProBox TV, check it out, or Boxing Scene, where we have broken these fights down quite a bit. But let's get to it. Let's get to some boxing and obviously see if I can make you guys some money. I'm going over the three main fights, doing a drive-by of two, and then spending a lot of time on Canelo Crawford. So let's start out Christian Mbilli versus Lester Martinez. Lester Martinez is a fighter I've called a lot on ProBox TV. He's fought under the ProBox banner from Guatemala. The dude can hit. He's just an absolute tank. And undefeated, power in both hands. I called his last fight against Joe Sean James. That was in California. And Joe Sean James, tall, rangy, athletic guy. Lester Martinez, well, first off, Joe Sean James kind of stood his ground more than he should have. Tried to kind of make a point and slug with Lester Martinez. Not a good idea. Lester Martinez went in there, absolutely destroyed him in round 4. Decorated amateur, good movement, good defense. The one difficulty when you look at his resume, he hasn't been tested a whole lot. It's been a lot of knockouts. It's been a lot of guys that even Carlos Gongora, who's a more experienced guy who had been successful at the elite level, he really wasn't able to push Lester. Lester was able to kind of push him around and be the bully in this fight, and so we didn't see him mentally push that much. Christian Mbilli, also undefeated. He's one of those guys who his key is physical pressure. He comes in and just kind of grinds and makes the ring very, very small and makes you mentally and physically fatigued. That's a big part of his style. He can punch. Not a huge puncher like Lester Martinez is, but a guy who essentially wears you down. But he doesn't have a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He's not a guy who has a ton of versatility. He can't do a lot of stuff. And the issue I see is it's going to take that kind of guy to beat Lester Martinez. It's going to be the guy who outboxes him, who outmoves him, who confuses him, who goes up a few rounds and makes him doubt himself, which we haven't seen yet. I don't see Christian Mbilli doing any of those things. Right now, when I look at DraftKings, let me take a look at it. It's the idea that when I'm looking at the odds, and it's Christian Mbilli, almost a 2-1 favorite, which I love. Lester Martinez plus 145. They believe that Christian Mbilli's experience at the elite level is the more important factor here. I think his lack of versatility is the more important factor. I think the idea that he's going to at some point get in a slugfest with Lester Martinez, and that's not going to work out for him. I go Lester Martinez. Want to make extra money, go buy knockout for sure. Lester Martinez by KO, TKO, DQ is plus 400. You can get 4-1 money on that. Powerful puncher. Go with the punching of Lester Martinez in an upset. Co-main event, Callum Walsh taking on Fernando Vargas Jr. If you're my age, you know Fernando Vargas. Right? Fernando was just a huge name in the 90s. Is almost exactly my age. And it's one of those things where his son bears the name. He's undefeated. He's a good fighter. He's very good, right? Excellent boxer, good movement, works well with both hands. Obviously has great training, has the family name, etc., etc., etc. Callum Walsh is kind of Dana White's boy. He's been promoted by Dana White. Dana White's put a lot behind him. This was bumped up to the co-main event. Originally, it was Lester Martinez, Christian Mbilli was the co-main event. This got bumped up to the co-main event. Dana White wants the spotlight on him. Callum Walsh, kid can hit. Very, very exciting. Fans really behind him. He can hurt you with either hand. When you look at the record, it speaks for itself. 14 fights. All of them wins. He's an excellent boxer. He's really good, excellent movement, good timing, good range. He's fought the better opposition. The one thing that gets me about this fight is the odds are really skewed. Now, one thing about boxing that you notice a lot is the odds tend to shift late. As kind of smart money comes in, it really changes things late. But right now, Callum Walsh, minus 330. 3.5 to 1 favorite. I think against another undefeated fighter, he's been tested. He hasn't been tested like this under these kind of bright lights. The odds are too skewed. Yes, I would favor Callum Walsh in this fight. I think it was 4 to 1 a little while ago. 3 to 1's too high. 3.5 to 1, way too high. Once again, we'll see how things shift in the next couple days. Press conferences today. We'll see how things shift the next couple days as smart money comes in. But Dana White didn't put his guy in this position to lose. He's not going to give him this kind of spotlight, this kind of positioning, and in a fight that he believes he's going to lose. As I said, whenever you gamble or look at fights, want to predict fights, always think, what's the promoter trying to do here? And a lot of times that gives you an insight into the fight. Dana White does not want his guy losing in the co-main event of a gigantic card. So Dana White believes this is a very, very winnable fight. Once again, the odds are just a little too skewed. You're not going to make any money on Callum Walsh. Undefeated Fernando Vargas Jr. in this position could pull the upset. I think it's certainly possible. So just purely for financial reasons, for the odds, you got to go with Fernando Vargas Jr. I think Callum Walsh is the better fighter. He's not 3.5 to 1 better, maybe 4 to 1 by the time the fight rolls around. So I just think the odds are too skewed. I would go with the upset once again in Fernando Vargas Jr. Now, moving on to the main event that we can really dig into, Canelo Alvarez taking on Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford, the best boxer of his generation, right? Maybe you could say post-Floyd Mayweather. The dude is the best. When you look at his list of accomplishments, sure, some of the names were past. Amir Khan was past his prime. Kell Brook was past his prime. But when he beat Yuriorkis Gamboa, I think it was his 24th professional fight, Gamboa was an absolute monster. And Terence Crawford took him apart and knocked him out. Had some adversity early. We'll get back to that in a second. Had some adversity early, but my God, his run throughout 140, 147 it's absolutely incredible. When you look at the names, I already talked about Yuriorkis Gamboa. You also have Jeff Horn. You have Amir Khan, a little past his prime. Kell Brook, once again. Showtime Sean Porter. Errol Spence Jr., Israel Madrimov, David Adesanya, very, very tough fighter. The guy's taken on great talent, and every time, he hasn't just won. In a Floyd Mayweather sense, he's made it look easy. Halfway through a Terence Crawford fight, you go, God, this guy doesn't belong in here. The guy he's fighting just isn't going to win. It's almost a foregone conclusion. Yes, he can start slowly. Yes, it takes him, once again, much like Mayweather, sometimes 3 or 4 rounds or to kind of read a guy. Not even 3 or 4. It's usually 1 or 2. But I remember the Amir Khan fight, knocked him down early, and man, that was about it. Did have a quick start against him. He kind of knows what gear to go in at a particular time. Showtime Sean Porter, he surged late and beat him. Now, it wasn't like he was behind in the scorecards, and this is going to be important later. He controls fights, even if he starts, once again, like Mayweather, a couple rounds in, he really starts cooking. By the midpoint of the fight, he's got you. It's never been, man, it's round 7 and you're behind, you really got to turn it up. We haven't seen him in that position. It's almost like a prime Anderson Silva where, yeah, sometimes he's reading you and figuring out what's going on, but he's still winning the rounds. He's still taking you apart. There's still no doubt who the class of this ring is. All right, that's Terence Crawford. So when I look at this fight, we all know he's going up 2 weight classes. He's really a 147-pounder. Had 1 fight at 54 against Israel Madrimov. We'll get to that fight in a second. And he's going up to 168 pounds. His power, he's a power puncher at 40, 47, not a power puncher at 54, certainly not a power puncher at 168 pounds. Yes, there are those pictures of him looking shredded and all jacked up. Great. It doesn't give you automatically a bunch of punching power. Right? He's not going to be a power puncher at 168. So what does he have to do? He has to outbox Canelo Alvarez for 12 rounds. That's the goal. What would prevent that? We haven't seen, as I just said, Terence Crawford really be under duress. We haven't seen him have to fight from behind. We haven't seen him take a shot and go, man, this guy really hits hard. I got to do something different here. We haven't seen him under mental pressure, I would say, since the Yuriorkis Gamboa fight. Because Gamboa started out strong and he had to come back. I mean, in every fight, it's been read and react, take you out. We haven't seen him have to struggle at all. And can Canelo put that physical pressure on and the mental pressure on to give Crawford some problems, right? The difficulty about Canelo is his footwork up to the task. So when speaking about Canelo Alvarez, you are looking at a guy who at 168 pounds is bigger, is stronger, incredible puncher, great chin. The only guys that obviously have defeated him, Floyd Mayweather and Dimitri Bivol. Floyd Mayweather, very different time in his career. He was a lot younger. Bivol was bigger and a fantastic boxer, and Canelo couldn't do anything to Dimitri Bivol. But over the last few fights, what my broadcast partner, Paulie Malignaggi, has been critical of is his choice of opponents. Didn't fight David Morrell, didn't fight David Benavidez, has fought, obviously, the guys that were the Edgar Berlangas, right? The guys who, might have potential, but hadn't been great in great fights yet. Obviously, the William Skull fight, that was a joke to a lot of people. Skull ran the whole time. He hasn't had since maybe the obviously lost to Bivol, but the second Gennady Golovkin fight was the last time he had a challenge and had to step up and had to really deal with an opponent really in his prime doing great things. So the last few fights have not prepared Canelo very well for this fight. If you look at the Skull fight, which was his last one, Skull, a Cuban boxer, they have this kind of hit and run kind of style. He hit and ran the whole time. He basically ran from Canelo. The one thing I really didn't like about that fight is Canelo couldn't corral Skull. Didn't have the footwork to really corner him, couldn't keep him in one place, ended up following him around a lot of the time. Yeah, he won the fight easily, but he could not keep Skull in one place. That does not bode well. Fighting a lighter guy in Crawford, who's going to have to move a lot to have a chance in this fight, or is going to have good ring generalship. You're going to have to corral Crawford at some point. And in his last fight, man, he looked terrible with his footwork. Looked a little hesitant with his punching. It just wasn't a good fight. Now, you could say Skull was an awkward guy who was running from him. You're never going to look good against a guy like that. But you should have the footwork to cut off the ring, and he didn't. And a lot of people who are excited about this fight weren't excited about it for the Skull fight. Chris Algieri, once again, my broadcast partner at ProBox TV, it was the Canelo and the Skull fight made him go, okay, maybe Crawford has a great shot because, man, his footwork didn't look good against Skull. And that's a lot of the narrative here, is Crawford doesn't move that much. He obviously has excellent footwork, but he pretty much stays in the pocket where he's really hard to hit and has no problem, slipping and ripping, catching his opponent's shots and returning stuff. And he has no problem staying in the pocket and doing all that. He doesn't want to do that against Canelo. I think what we see is a Crawford who moves a lot more against Canelo, so Canelo's going to have to move a lot more to catch him, to kind of put him in one place. If you're as old as I am, the fight this reminds you of is Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler in 1987. And a lot of that fight was Hagler kind of following Sugar Ray around, trying to get him to stay in one place. Sugar Ray fighting in spurts, stealing rounds, flurrying at the end, and winning a controversial decision. And if it works out for Crawford, that might be the kind of fight we see here. Now, Sugar Ray had legs. That guy could move all over the ring for 12 rounds. Crawford doesn't as much, but I think he has to in this fight. I think he's going to move a lot more than we're used to seeing him move. Does not want to be a pocket fighter in this fight. Now, those are the tactics. Now, can Crawford take a Canelo punch? Not consistently. You can take one. You can't take a bunch. Also, the idea that last time out was his first fight, 154 pounds against Israel Madrimov. Crawford didn't look great against Madrimov. He couldn't bully him. Crawford was a wrestler. A lot of people don't know that. He wrestled in Nebraska, a very, very tough wrestling state. And he just physically can bully guys, right? He has that wrestling strength, kind of underhook you and move you around. Couldn't do that at 154 pounds to an Eastern European fighter in Israel Madrimov, who's real strong. So when he couldn't kind of move his opponent around and kind of be the bully, it was a different kind of game. Now, he won, and I don't think it was that controversial. I think he won by a couple rounds. You're going to muscle around Canelo? Yeah, I don't think so. But I think the 154-pound fight kind of got Crawford to think, hey, look, I got to approach this differently than I have at 147 pounds. And Israel Madrimov could have been the dry run for that. Could have let him know, look, I can't bully guys on the inside like I did at 147 pounds or 140. I have to have different tactics. Well, against Canelo, he's going to have to use those tactics. And his fight IQ is off the chart. All right? So we're getting two fighters past their prime, probably. And it's kind of who's past it more, who's sharper right now, who stylistically can make it work, and what do the odds makers say? Well, right now, if you look at the odds, it is Canelo Alvarez. It's Canelo Alvarez. Last time I saw it, he was like minus 150. Right now, it's minus 165 for Canelo Alvarez. Terence Crawford plus 135. So you make money on Terence Crawford. Also, let me see if it's Terence Crawford by decision is plus 200. You get 2-1 money. If he wins, it's almost certainly by decision. I just don't see him hitting hard enough to hurt Canelo. So when I look at it, I do believe Canelo's lack of footwork catches up to him in this fight. I think it's a matter of him, not as much as it did in the Mayweather fight, because Mayweather's was damn near his prime, and Canelo wasn't there yet. But this idea of not being able to corral Crawford counterpunching, picking his spots. Canelo didn't pull the trigger as well against Skull as we've seen him do it in previous fights. I'm going with Crawford based on the money. So all 3 fights, I'm going upset. I think Crawford has the boxing IQ. I think he has the footwork. I think he has the movement. He has the counterpunching ability. And Canelo looking a little bit slower last time out. I think this is the wrong fight to be slow in, and it might kind of catch up with him. Might be very, very close. Might be some rounds we're not sure which way they go. But I think looking at the plus money, I think Terence Crawford is a very, very good pick right now. That's where I'm going. So I, once again, am doing a watch-along for this on ProBox TV. Check it out if you can. I'll be back Monday to own all 3 of my picks. Enjoy the boxing weekend. I'll see you guys Monday.